November 4th, 1982, something weird is about to happen in Cameroon. The president, Ahmadou Ahidjo, has been running the country for 25 years. He's only 58, still healthy, still sharp, and he's about to do something nobody saw coming. He's going to resign from his post as president of the Republic of Cameroon and hand power to his prime minister, Paul Biya, a quiet, unknown government worker, a paper pusher. Most Cameroonians had barely heard him speak. Ahmadou Ahidjo addresses the nation.
Depuis 25 ans, passe le pouvoir en Biya. Et pourquoi en Biya, le fiole d'Ahidjo?
What happened next gets darker, because less than a year later, Biya accuses Ahidjo of plotting to assassinate him. The former president gets sentenced to death. Then, just a week after that sentence, there is a bloody coup attempt. Soldiers loyal to Ahidjo storm the presidential palace. Estimates range from 71 dead to over 1,000. But this story doesn't start there. You see, among French African colonies, Cameroon shed the most blood to reach independence. This is how Cameroon became a dictatorship for 62 years. Presidents manufactured by France, freedom fighters exterminated, heads displayed on spikes in village squares, a war that killed hundreds of thousands but was never called a war, a story France tried to bury, a story Cameroon tried to forget. The future Cameroon is a colonial invention. In 1472, Portuguese sailors named it Rio dos Camarões, River of Shrimp. That's literally where the name comes from. Fast forward to 1884, the scramble for Africa is in full swing. Two local kings, King Dumbe Lobebel and King Akwa, signed the Germano-Douala Treaty with Germany. They signed everything over, the whole country, all the rights. In exchange, King Bell receives 27,000 German marks, about $40,000 in today's money. An entire country sold for what amounts to a few years' salary. The Germans establish plantations, build ports, extract resources, and crush any resistance. The Baka people dare to resist, so Germans hunt them down like animals, ship them to Germany to be displayed in cages at zoos and colonial exhibitions. Human beings exhibited alongside monkeys. Some died in those cages. Then World War I happened. Germany lost, and Cameroon was split between France and Britain under the League of Nations, later the UN. France takes the larger eastern part. Britain takes the western strip. Two different languages, two different systems. In 1961, the northern Camerooners chose to join Nigeria. The southern Camerooners chose to join the former French zone. A federal state was born. May 20th, 1972, federalism was scrapped by referendum, establishing a unitary state. Power centralized in Yaoundé. So, how did Ahidjo become the first president? To understand the next decade, you need three letters: UPC, created in 1948 as the Union of the People of Cameroon. By 1955, they controlled 460 village committees, 80,000 members across ethnic lines. They created the Democratic Union of Cameroonian Women in 1952, fighting not just colonialism, but the discrimination women faced. Their leader, Ruben Umyobe, was smart, brave. He saw how French used ethnic divisions to control people. Divide and rule is the oldest colonial trick. He wanted Camerooners to see themselves as one people. And he wants something France really doesn't like: actual independence. In 1952, Umyobe goes to the United Nations and asks for three things. Put Cameroon back together. Let us govern ourselves. Give us a date for independence. France says, absolutely not. It goes back in 1953 and again in 1954, each time denouncing French colonial crimes, calling for immediate freedom. The French are panicking. Colonial subjects weren't supposed to be disorganized, disarticulate, disdetermined. They tried to stop him politically first. In the 1951 legislative elections, they waited until the last minute to accept his candidacy. They put voting stations far from UPC strongholds. Unyobe losses. But everyone knows the election was rigged. So UPC shift strategy. They will pressure France internationally. They will mobilize the people directly. So May 22nd, 1955, UPC supporters take to the street across Cameroon. Thousands of people, peaceful protest, demanding independence. The French colonial forces don't negotiate. They open fire, machine guns into crowds of unarmed civilians. At least 26 people are dead, hundreds wounded. The violence continues for a week. July 13, 1955, France banned the UPC, make it illegal. Any member can be arrested on sight. Some flew to British Cameroon, others to Egypt, Ghana, Guinea, China. And that's when France decides, if we can't control them, we'll eliminate them. What happened next is one of the most brutal colonial wars in African history. But France never calls it a war. They called it pacification, maintaining order, counter-insurgence operations. The French government brings in Pierre Mesmer as High Commissioner. Mesmer fought in Indochina. He watched France lose to the Vietnamese at Dien Bien Phu. That defeat haunted him. He was determined not to lose another colony. Lieutenant Colonel Jean Lamberton from Indochina launched the Cameroon Pacification Zone, ZOPAC. Here's how it worked. First, they identify regions with UPC support, the Bassa and Bamileke areas in central and western Cameroon. Then they declare entire regions forbidden zones. Anyone found in these zones is shot on sight. No questions, no trials. They forcibly relocate entire population into regroupment camps, concentration camps by another name, barbed wire, armed guards, forced labor, men, women, children, all forced to work building roads for French companies. One survivor testified, there was no trial. You were arrested, interrogated, imprisoned. You never saw a judge, never saw a lawyer. You didn't even know what you were accused of. Outside the camps, the French military conduct search and destroy operations. They round up entire villages, pack people into open areas. Their helicopters showed up, machine guns, bombs, napalm, the same stuff they used in Vietnam. They burned entire villages to the ground. But it gets worse. When they kill resistance fighters, they cut off their hands, put them on stakes in village centers. A message, this is what happens if you fight us. They destroy crops, poison water supplies, kill livestock. The goal is to starve the resistance. The UPC fighters have machetes, bows and arrows. They organize in small bands of 50 to 200 fighters, hiding in the forest. It was not a fair fight. It was a massacre. One survivor remembered, bodies everywhere. So many you couldn't walk without stepping on them. The machine guns, they never stopped firing. How many people died? The French official count? A few thousand. Independent researchers who've studied village records talked to survivors. At least 100,000 dead. Some estimates go as high as 300,000 or even 400,000. In a country of maybe 4 to 5 million people at the time, that's roughly 1 in 10 people killed. That's genocide. And it's been almost completely erased from history. For many months, French soldiers hunted down UPC leaders one by one. In early September 1958, they found Unyobe's location after torturing a female prisoner for information. On September 13, 1958, Unyobe tried to escape by crossing over a fallen tree. French soldiers, they shot him in the back 3 times. After his death, they dragged his body along the ground for several kilometers. With Unyobe gone, France needs a puppet, someone to be the face of independent Cameroon, someone they can control. That's when Ahmadou Ahidjo came into the picture. Ahidjo's early life is kind of mysterious. Born in 1924, maybe in Cameroon, maybe in Mali, nobody is totally sure. What we know, he grew up without a dad, with his single mother later migrating to Cameroon. Later got adopted by a Muslim chief. Ahidjo completed his elementary education at Garoua Primary School in 1939. He went on to study at Yaoundé's Higher School of Administration. Upon graduation, he joined the French administration as a telegraphist and then a radio operator. He got noticed by French colonial officials who helped him launch his political career. And Ahidjo knows how to play the game. He's smart, he is patient, and most importantly, he knows how to make powerful people like him. A French colonial official literally admitted in his records that he shuffled ballot boxes to get Ahidjo elected in 1947. By 1958, France had a problem with Cameroon's prime minister. He's getting too independent, won't follow orders. They need someone they can control. They pick Ahidjo. The French orchestrated Mbida's downfall. With Ahidjo's help, they convinced all of Mbida's ministers to resign. Mbida is forced out. February 18, 1958, Ahidjo became prime minister at 33 years old with France backing. Paris made Ahidjo sign a series of cooperation agreements. January 1st, 1960, Cameroon gained independence. May 5th, 1960, Ahidjo wins the presidential election and becomes the first president of the Republic of Cameroon, an independence he never fought for. Independence in France was all theater. France controlled the military, controlled the money, controlled the economy. French advisors are in every ministry telling Camerooners officials what to do. It's colonialism with a different name. The surviving UPC leader seen right through it. They called Ahidjo what he is, a puppet. And Ahidjo, he hunts them down one by one. Now it was Ahidjo's Cameroonian forces, advised by the French military, hunting down the remaining UPC fighters. The method, the same brutal tactics: mass arrest, torture, execution. October 1960, Geneva, Dr. Felix Moumier, UPC leader in exile, sits down for dinner. French agents poison him. He dies slowly, painfully. March 1966, another UPC fighter, Osende Afana, gets cornered in the forest. He loses his glasses during the chase, can barely see, gets captured. They kill him, cut off his head, fly it by helicopter to Yaoundé. Why? So President Ahidjo can personally look at it. By 1970, only one UPC member was still fighting, Ernest Ouandie. He's been hiding in the forest for years, running, surviving. August 1970, they finally catch him. They take him to a place called Nkondengi. It's run by Jean Fauchive, basically Ahidjo's personal torturer. Ouandie gets a trial, but it's just for show. The verdict is decided before it starts. Some lawyers want to defend him. One of them is François Mitterrand, who will later become president of France. Ahidjo blocks their visas, won't even let them in the country. January 15th, 1971. Public square in Bafoussam. A crowd is forced to watch. Ernest Ouandie and two other fighters are tied to posts. Gunshots. And just like that, the resistance is over. Everyone who wanted real independence is dead. Ahidjo has won. Is untouchable now. In 1966, Ahidjo banned all political parties except the one he created. Cameroon became a one-party state. If you are not in the UNC, you are illegal. The constitution was rewritten to centralize all power in his hands. He controlled the military, the government, even who could run for office. Democracy was dead. Ahidjo banned any public reference to the UPC. He banned mention of Unyobe, banned discussion of the war. Teachers couldn't teach it. Journalists couldn't write about it. Citizens couldn't talk about it. An entire genocide was being erased in real time. Mass graves were left unmarked. No memories, no recognition, just silence. Musicians were encouraged to write patriotic songs praising Ahidjo as the father of the nation. Any criticism of politicians was essentially forbidden. The country became a police state where your neighbor might report you for the wrong word. For the next decade, Ahidjo ruled without anyone challenging him. The interesting part is that he actually develops the country. He built roads, schools, hospitals, universities. Cameroon started looking pretty modern on paper. But here's the catch. Almost all these Cameroonian companies owned by France. The profit going to Paris. Ahidjo built, but France owned it all. In 1975, Ahidjo created a new position, Prime Minister, and he appointed Paul Biya. Now, let me tell you about Paul Biya. He was born February 13, 1933, in southern Cameroon, son of a Catholic teacher. He actually started studying to become a priest, but was expelled from seminary at 16. Brilliant student. Goes to France in 1950s, studies at the Institut des Hautes Études d'Outre-mer, literally the Institute for Advanced Overseas Studies, where France trains colonial administrators. Biya gets a degree in public law, returns to Cameroon in 1962 with outstanding credentials and a French wife. Is everything Ahidjo likes. Educated, francophone, loyal, quiet, no personal power base, no charisma, the perfect administrator. Biya rises through the bureaucracy. 1962 junior official, 1964 Director of Cabinet for Education, 1968 Secretary General of the Presidency, 1975 Prime Minister. But as Prime Minister, Biya has almost no real power. Ahidjo is both the head of state and the head of government. Biya just coordinates some economic department. Nobody sees him as Ahidjo's successor. But in 1971, Ahidjo pushed through a constitutional reform. If the president dies or resigns, the prime minister automatically becomes president. Ahidjo thinks Biya will be easy to control. He was wrong. In 1965, France had an election. Charles de Gaulle is running against Francois Mitterrand. Ahidjo loved de Gaulle, worships him, built his whole identity around serving him. Mitterrand is a socialist, an opponent, everything Ahidjo hates. In a moment of arrogance, Ahidjo makes a public statement. The day Mitterrand becomes president of France, he should ban me from entering. It's meant as a joke. Ahidjo assumes Mitterrand will never win. May 21st, 1981. Francois Mitterrand wins. He's now president of France. He remembers exactly what Ahidjo said. Mitterrand makes it crystal clear. France no longer supports Ahidjo. In 1965, France had an election. Ahidjo sees what happened to other African leaders who lost France's support. They get overthrown, sometimes even killed. October 1982, Ahidjo travels to France. What happened during that trip is still unclear. But when he comes back to Cameroon, he makes phone calls. I'm resigning. Wait, what?
Camerounais, mes chers compatriotes.
November 4th, 1982, Ahidjo goes on national radio and drops the bomb. He's quitting. He claims it's for health reasons. Nobody believes that. He's 58 and perfectly healthy. But what he's supposed to say? France forced me out, but he can't. That would be humiliating for him. He names Paul Biya as the new president. Biya is 49, quiet, bookish, seems harmless. November 6, 1982, Paul Biya is sworn in as president of the National Assembly. Ahidjo watches from the audience. At first, nothing changed. Biya makes no decision without calling Ahidjo first. Every policy gets approved by the ex-president. Every appointment goes through him. Ahidjo still controls everything from behind the curtain. But then Biya's friends, mostly Southern intellectuals, started whispering, "Why are you taking orders from him? You are the president now. Act like it." And slowly, Biya started listening. The phone calls from Biya to Ahidjo get less frequent. Then they stop. One day, Ahidjo gets a letter. Not a phone call, a letter. Biya is demanding control of the party. Not asking, demanding. Ahidjo refuses. The party is his legacy, his power base. He's not giving it up. June 1983, Biya reshuffled the cabinet without consulting Ahidjo. Fires Sadu Daudu, Samuel Etundi, Victor Kanga, all Ahidjo loyalists, all northerners. Ahidjo is furious. August 22nd, 1983, Biya announces a plot against the state. Several officers were arrested, all northerners, all connected to Ahidjo. Ahidjo in France denies everything. February 27th, 1984, a military tribunal sentenced him to death in abstinence for plotting against state security. Ahmadou Ahidjo was sentenced to death by the country he ruled for 22 years. Then came April 6, 1984. Elements of the Republican Guard launched a coup attempt. Heavy fighting in Yaoundé. The presidential palace is under siege. Biya survives. The coup fails. But the death roll is horrific. Official numbers say 71 dead, but witnesses talk about hundreds, maybe over 1,000. When it's over, Biya uses the coup to remove anyone suspected of loyalty to Ahidjo. 35 Republican guards are executed, hundreds more in prison. Biya sentences Ahidjo to death a second time. The Cameroonian government seizes all of Ahidjo's property, freezes his bank account, and here is the ultimate humiliation. They revoke his Cameroonian citizenship. Ahmadou Ahidjo, first president of Cameroon, is now stateless. Senegal's president takes pity on him, gives him a Senegalese diplomatic passport. Ahidjo lived his final years in Dakar, in an apartment he had bought years earlier for his wife. November 30th, 1989, Ahmadou Ahidjo died of a heart attack. He's 65 years old. He's buried in Dakar, the largest Muslim cemetery in the city. His body has never been returned to Cameroon. 1991, Cameroon passes a law saying Ahidjo's reputation is restored. He's officially rehabilitated, but his body is still in Senegal. Paul Biya has never, not for once in 34 years, suggested bringing him home. Even in death, Ahidjo is denied his homeland. Between 100,000 and 400,000 people died fighting for Cameroon's freedom. Ahmadou Ahidjo helped kill them. Then he erased them from history. He built a country on corpses and called it progress. Served France while calling it independence. Created a dictatorship that outlived him. Paul Biya is still president, 43 years and counting. This didn't start with him. This system was built by Ahidjo, installed by France to crush the people who wanted real freedom. The terrible history of Cameroon is about how colonial powers maintained control even after the flags came down. Prophet murdered. Puppet installed. A struggle for freedom drowned in blood. The people who died in those forests, in those camps, in those executions, the hundreds of thousands whose name we never know, they deserved better. They still do. This is their story. The one France tried to bury. The one Cameroon was forced to forget. Thank you so much for watching. Please share this video with a friend. Have a wonderful one.
Statistique. Quant au dialogue, nous sommes pour le dialogue. Je prends les élections du 22 juillet dernier, les élections législatives et municipales. Nous les avons gagnées. Nous avons gagné 140 députés et encore 13 pendant les partiels. nous pouvions occuper tous les postes. Qu'est-ce que nous avons fait? Eh bien, on a ouvert un dialogue avec les partis politiques pour leur dire, bon, il faut partager. Nous vous demandons de vous associer à nous dans la gestion du parti. On l'a fait à l'Assemblée nationale. Le bureau de l'Assemblée nationale comprend les membres de mon parti, mais aussi les membres des partis d'opposition, les commissions à l'Assemblée, les postes de vice-président. On s'est réparti cela. Après un dialogue difficile, un dialogue où l'opposition, malgré sa défaite, demandait à présider l'Assemblée nationale, vous vous rendez compte? Bon, ben ils ont fini par accepter les vice-présidences. Il a cité le cas du leader de l'opposition, Frondi. C'est vrai qu'on ne s'est pas rencontré, mais